Hello, welcome to Shad Life. As you can see, I have my state all road here. And if you've been following, I've been talking about the brakes. And even though I've upgraded the brakes to these TRP spires, they still don't work as well as I would like them to work. So I was doing a bunch of research because I actually have these exact same brakes on my Salsa Fargo and they work great. And then I was trying to figure out, is it a thing about short pull versus long pull and all of that? And these brakes are designed for drop levers, which is what I have on here. So none of that was the issue. And digging deeper, I found out that it's very likely the housing. So being that this is a budget bike, $899 when I bought it, the brake cable housing is not compressionless housing. I guess it's compression housing. No, right. But if you follow the brake cable, and if I put, let's see, the brake's on that side, and I put my hand on it, and I squeeze the lever, I can actually feel the housing move and compress, believe it or not. And what's interesting is like, okay, I want to compare this to another bike. So of course I went and did the same test on my Salsa Fargo. And when I put my hand on there and squeezed the lever, I could hardly even feel that there was cable actuation going on. And I certainly couldn't feel the cable like kind of is like almost expands. And we're talking the housing, not the cable, the outer housing. So I bought some bulk compressionless brake cable housing because I will use this in many applications, BMX, this bike, if I ever have to replace the housing on my Fargo, and so on and so forth. Any mechanical brakes that I use. And so we'll do this switch and see if that fixes the problem. So what makes this a pain in the butt is I have to unwrap the handlebars to do the brakes. So because of that, and because I'm not 100% sure this is going to fix the brake problem, I'm going to do just the front brake and test it and see if that solves the problem. If it does, then I'll go through the pain of doing the rear brake. So hopefully I can get the tape off of there and reuse it because I really like this tape and it's actually fairly new. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and then we'll give it a test. Okay, so I did the switch with just the front housing. Just basically pulled the old one out, put the new one in. I can even tell just by looking at this housing that it's kind of the old school kind. It's got the metal end caps and stuff like that. Probably, inexpensive stuff to save money on a complete bike. So this is where companies will cut corners. So my Fargo, which was a lot more expensive, doesn't have this problem. They didn't put cheap housing on there. So I can tell right now, even without riding the bike, grabbing the brake, that this grabs and it's super solid. And this one is super squishy. The front one felt just like this one before I made the switch. It was super squishy, even though it's a shorter cable. So technically, if it's a shorter cable, it's going to have less squish to it. But the idea of compressionless is both the front and rear should be the same. So I'm going to go out and ride this and see if my theory is correct here. And if it is, then we'll know. So I'm going to just go ride it really quick and come back. Whew, it's hot outside. I'm sweating after doing that. So what did I find out? Well, significant improvement, but not where I want it to be. So what's improved? Well, the brake feel has improved. And definitely a lot more stopping power. But we're going from brakes that, like, regardless of how hard I squeeze them, they weren't slowing me down much. I would use both brakes, really squeeze them. So, like, I haven't been on any, like, downhills or going super fast on this bike, thankfully. And part of that is because I don't trust the brakes. So now we're at a point where I can definitely slow down and so on and so forth. But it doesn't have that bite that I want. And my Fargo definitely has that bite. Like, if I really grab the lever really hard, I can actually endo, slow down pretty quickly, things like that. With this bike, once I switch out the rear to a compressionless housing, it'll be a lot more confidence inspiring because I will be able to significantly slow down, and with both brakes I will be able to come to a complete stop pretty quickly. It'll feel better, more responsive, all of that. Will it be ideal? Will it be where I want it to be? No. So yes. I have a feeling that had State equipped their bikes, or if they equip their bikes with compressionless housing rather than this crappy housing they equip it with, even with their stock brakes, their bikes are going to work a lot better. One of the biggest things people complain about is how poor the brakes work on these State 4130 all roads. And I have a feeling, sure, maybe the cheaper low-end calipers I have, which I want to say were Tektros. I don't have them anymore, but I had them. Now that I've switched out the housing, I think my next step is going to be to go to like organic pads or something like that, which technically wear faster, but they have better bite. And I have a feeling these are metallic pads. I'll have to research that. They're just the stock pads that came with these TRP brakes. So I will check the pads and see about upgrading them. And I have a feeling the combination of changing out the housing and changing the pads will give me all the braking power that I need. So did this help? Yes, a lot. Like, it is night and day difference of how the brakes feel. Like, when I apply the brake, you can feel it grab the rotor, and you can like get more power instantly. When this housing was on there, it was super squishy. I'd grab it and the lever would keep squishing, and I wouldn't be getting any more braking power. It was almost like when it got to a point and I couldn't apply any more power to the brake regardless of how much I squeezed the lever, because all of that power was being taken away in the housing. Where now, sure, it takes more effort for me to do it, more than I want, but it's at least putting more pressure on the rotor. I can feel it. I can slow the bike down much more drastically, and it doesn't feel like I have nothing left to give it, right? So the idea is I want to be able to do it with like a lighter touch. I don't want to have to grab so hard to get it to stop. With this housing, I couldn't grab hard enough to even get it to, like, I mean, it would mildly slow down. It's actually kind of dangerous, believe it or not. So yeah, it's kind of funny because the stock brakes were really bad. Then I upgraded to these, and that gave it a mild improvement. And then now that I did this, I've got another phase of improvement, but this was probably the most significant improvement, changing out the housing. Now I'm going to investigate brake pads, and then we'll see. Cool. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.